Hello, Dr. Vicki Peterson here. I've been asked by a lot of mothers to give them some tips and hints on kids' lunches. Having been a mom that raised 3 children of varying tastes and likes and dislikes of food, I understand how this can be a big one, especially when you're trying to feed your children healthy, especially when your children have dietary restrictions. It's not easy. So here we go. Let me give you some of my ideas. First of all, boy, where do you begin? I loved it when my kids came home and said, well, Johnny has this in his lunch and it looks really good. You're like, oh, great. What was that? And of course, it was some junk food that you would never want your child to touch. And then I believe in honesty. I believe in being just very straightforward and treating children like you're talking to a fellow adult in matters of health. So what I would simply say to my children is, you know, regardless of how that looked or maybe how it tasted, the facts are I checked it out and it's just not really workable for you. Either it has something in it that you're sensitive to, which I'd explain to them, it had gluten, it had dairy, etc., or it's just not really that healthy. It's got a lot of chemicals, it's got a lot of preservatives, and in the long run, it's not really going to give you the kind of body and health that you want. And that's my job as your mom, is like, I want you to be healthy, I want you to be happy, I want you to have a body that really works for you for as long as you want it to, and not one that has disease and later in life. And they could appreciate that, but then of course the great next question is, well, then why does Johnny's mother give it to him? Which, that one can be difficult. And it's, the honest answer is Johnny's mother probably doesn't know any better. And, and then of course, my children would drag me over to various parents and try to get me to explain to them why they should change their children's lunches. That was always a lot of fun. But I actually love doing that because that's what I'm all about, is education. But back to your child's lunch. I think when it comes to beverages, to start out simply, that just good water is the best way to go. I know a lot of you are going to groan, but the point is that juice is very high in sugar. Even if there's no added sugar, it's still very refined, and it's still, is going to give your child a sugar high and low, and you don't want that when your child is trying to learn in school. So even if it's a flavored water, if it has a squeeze of orange juice in it or something like that, they'll grow. I mean, the point is that water is very hydrating, which is why we're trying to drink. And if you slowly kind of move it into fresh fruit, we eat fruit, we drink water. That's been kind of a mainstay for us, is that we don't drink our juice, we eat our fruit, and we drink water, and it just works better that way. So that's something you can kind of slide into. I started with diluting the kids' juice. I had individual like Tupperware containers, and I would dilute the juice, and they would so we kind of weaned them off that way. So that's one thing you can think about. As far as food, we definitely had these igloo container lunch boxes that had the little thermoses, so if something was warm, it would stay warm. If it was cold, it would stay cold. So kind of brilliant that way as far as the various things, the various kind of containers you can use. But what we were big on is I would make for dinner something they would have for lunch the next day. So if, this is going back a ways, but we weren't vegan then, but we would do like ground turkey, and that was cooked up with tomato sauce and a rice pasta, as an example, and they really liked that. And then I would also have broccoli, as a side. They loved broccoli or asparagus, various things. But then for lunch, I would just chop it up, and it would all just be mixed together. We'd warm it up in the morning. It would go hot into the thermos, and it was warm enough by the time they got that. Bean chili was another great one. Put it hot in the thermos. So we had this thing of dinner became the next lunch, and then of course dinner that night was different, and it kind of went that way. There was certainly the almond butter on the rice cake, and we'd kind of make a sandwich of 2 rice cakes, things like that. They could do fresh fruit for sure. If you like little pieces of, if they like broccoli or carrots, something like that. Dipping them in hummus is great, not ranch dressing, but hummus, or maybe a healthy dressing you make yourself. So these are some ideas for you. I wrote a few things down. Egg salad. They loved egg salad, so that was kind of an easy one that we would use. And once again, you know, it's got the mayonnaise in it, but if it's cold in the morning and you put it in the right container, all is okay. And that stayed really well. Some fresh nuts and raisins, you know, as a little trail mix. Not the bought trail mix, because that has the M&Ms, and the nuts are usually rancid by the time you get them because it's all pre-prepared. But buy your own fresh nuts and your own fresh dried fruit, and give them that. So that's a sweet, but it's still fresh. And don't overdo the dried fruit, not a ton, because that's very high in sugar. But the fresh nuts is great. So that's helpful. Basically, you know, it's avoiding these highly processed foods. You know, these kids' lunches that you can buy in the frozen section, or that you read the ingredient list and it looks like a chemistry experiment. You know, if you can't pronounce it, you don't want to give it to your child. We also, as I said, we were eating meat at that point, but places like, actually I've only ever found it at Whole Foods, so I'm not trying to exclude every other grocery store, but Whole Foods just happened to be the only one where I could find like chicken cold cuts, you know, sliced very thin, and turkey of the similar sort, that the only ingredients were chicken salt water or turkey salt water. Any other place I ever went to trying to find cold cuts, even if we were on the road, or you know, they were hungry and I just wanted to try to grab them something, all had a long list of preservatives. So the only problem with the no preservatives is it goes bad quickly. So I found that if I bought those we would do turkey roll-ups, or chicken roll-ups. So I would just take it and roll it up, and they could grab it, and I put it in a little Ziploc, and they would eat it with their hummus and their veggies, that kind of thing. So it definitely takes some planning. I think maybe you'll like the idea of turning dinner into the following lunch. That's an easy one. You just make extra at night. So I would do that with soups. I do it with chili. I did it with that pasta dish I was telling you about earlier. So that worked really well for the kids. And I was always trying to figure out ways to sneak veggies in. One of my favorite was taking kale and slicing it very, 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 very finely, and just putting it in any kind, and always putting it in a soup, always putting it in tomato sauce, always putting it in a stir fry. You know, they'd see the big chunks of the broccoli and the carrot that they liked, but that really tiny thing that they could hardly see was a lot of kale, and they just kind of got used to seeing it, and you definitely can't taste it. Certainly beginning their day with a green smoothie is fabulous, gets a lot of greens into them. And that's the one place actually we did use juice. We would start with an organic orange juice, about half a cup, and a couple of cups of spinach, fresh baby spinach, which has no taste to it, by the way, a banana. What else would we put in it? Some frozen berries, and you can change up the taste depending on what kind of berries, whether you use blueberries or strawberries or raspberries. We use the frozen organic. They liked it cold, so you can do that. You can put a little bit of flax oil or some almond butter in it. The almond butter is delicious. So these are all that. I segued into breakfast there for a second, but back to lunch. Those are some ideas that served me well through all those years of making lunches. And when you come down to it, you know, it's so much easier when your child is feeling well, because then they're doing well in school, and just life is so much more enjoyable when they're healthy. And of course you want the best for them. You want them to learn and then in their future get to do exactly what they want to do, because they did have that learning experience in school. And what you don't want is to be feeding something that's really a toxin, and then their brain doesn't work very well, and they're not learning. So I really want your feedback from this, and I can do a part 2 and talk more about the ideas that come back from you. But let me know if this was helpful. Let me know what ideas and things you've come up with that really have worked for your children, because I know it's a big dilemma for moms, and it can be tough to stand there and defend why you included X in the lunch and not Y when Johnny's mother gives him Y, you know. But hang in there, because you're doing the right thing. Until next time, I wish you very good health.